I don't know. I hear different stories. Did anybody ever hear of the great Alphonse Capone? Al Capone, great head of the mafia, right? Mean Scarface. He got a scar that went from here to here, and he didn't mind at all. But he was a rough guy. Now, I heard he was indicted once. A couple of people told me a few times more. But I was indicted 4 times than Al Capone, Alphonse. You know, if he had dinner with you and if he didn't like the way you smiled at him at dinner, he would kill you. You'd be dead. By the time you walked out of the nice restaurant, you would be dead. He got indicted once. I got indicted 4 times. Over bullshit, I got indicted. Bullshit.
That's Donald Trump praising the mafia crime boss Al Capone and bragging that he's been indicted more than Al Capone. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Network. Let's go over this speech that Donald Trump gave in Nevada, and let's compare it to some speeches that President Biden gave. Let's jump right in. Here, Donald Trump talks about repealing Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act, and then blames John McCain for preventing him from repealing the Affordable Care Act when he was in office. Play this clip.
We're going to make it much less expensive for people with much better health care, and we're going to get that done. We almost got it done, but John McCain voted against it. That was a bad day. Remember that? Thumbs down after campaigning for 10 years. Thumbs down, everybody. Let's put your thumb down. Campaigned for 10 years on it, and then he put his thumb down. So somebody will explain that to me someday.
And of course, throughout Donald Trump's time where he disgraced our country, as he continues to, but when he disgraced our country in office, he said, I'm going to come out with a health care plan in 2 weeks. Just you wait. I'm going to come out with an infrastructure plan in 2 weeks. Just you wait. But like everything, it is all a lie when it comes to Donald Trump. Speaking of lies, here Donald Trump talks about that when he was in office, there were the best job numbers, the best economic numbers. So even though right now the economic numbers are better, according to Donald Trump, like everything else, those are fake numbers. Everything is fake but his numbers. Here, play this clip.
We're going to cover them. Biggest tax increase in history. When we had the biggest tax decrease ever. Think of it. Ever in history of our country, the biggest tax cut, the biggest tax decrease in the history of our country, the biggest regulation cuts in the history of our country, the best job numbers in the history of our country, the real job numbers, not the fake job numbers that they get.
And as Ben Wexler points out, if you take out Trump's worst year, 2020, and you take out President Biden's best year, 2021, President Biden's numbers, the real numbers, are still better than Donald Trump's numbers by far, by every economic metric. In fact, that's why Donald Trump is starting to say that he's the reason why the economy is doing well right now. Donald Trump recently said in a speech in New Hampshire, for example, that President Biden's booming economy is running off the fumes of what Donald Trump did. You can't get more pathetic than that. Here, in the ultimate projection and confession, Donald Trump talks about President Biden weaponizing law enforcement in Nevada. Play the clip.
It's no wonder Crooked Joe and the far-left lunatics are desperate to stop us by any means necessary. They're willing to violate the U.S. Constitution at levels never seen before in order to win. They're dirty players. They play dirty. They weaponize justice. They're a bunch of dirty players. Look at what they're doing right here to Michael and great people in this state. It's a disgrace. Joe Biden is a threat to democracy.
Here, Donald Trump brags about what he can do with a telephone. Play the clip.
Wouldn't take him back. I got a thing called a telephone. You can do a lot with a telephone. You can do a lot. I did it with France. They were going to put taxes on American companies.
Notably, Special Counsel Jack Smith knows what Donald Trump could do with a telephone. Donald Trump's phone was obtained by Special Counsel Jack Smith in the criminal prosecution of Donald Trump. That will be evidence against Donald Trump. Here, we reach the part of the speech where Donald Trump randomly says Barack Hussein Obama. Play the clip.
Coming up to me saying that the Obama administration, has anybody ever heard of Barack Hussein Obama? Remember Rush? Barack Hussein Obama. Remember Rush Limbaugh? He would talk about Barack Hussein Obama. Rush. Gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He is missed, greatly missed.
Here, Donald Trump starts attacking the FBI, ATF, DEA, and DHS. Play the clip.
I will shift massive portions of federal law enforcement to immigration enforcement, including parts of the DEA, ATF, FBI, and DHS. And I will make clear that we must use any and all resources needed to stop the invasion of our country, including moving thousands of troops currently stationed overseas in countries that don't like us. They laugh at our current president. They think he's a fool, and we shouldn't be there. We shouldn't be there. We have to protect.
Then we reach the part of the speech where Donald Trump talks about how President Biden is caused an invasion into the United States. Play the clip.
Their country. Our border had never been stronger, but then Crooked Joe came in and he launched an invasion against our country. This is an invasion. This is like a military invasion.
And as we reach the conclusion of Donald Trump's speech, this is where he says that those who disagree with him in the United States of America, American citizens who disagree with him, are more dangerous than Vladimir Putin, than Russia, China, and North Korea. Donald Trump says American citizens who oppose him are more dangerous. You realize what Donald Trump's trying to set up right here. Play this clip.
We're fighting against some really vicious people within our country. We have vicious people outside, but I believe truly that the people inside of our country are far worse, because we can handle, with the right president, in particular president, we can handle China, Russia, we can handle North Korea, Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, and if you had any doubt, here he calls for mass detention camps and rounding up millions of Latinos. Play the clip.
When I'm reelected, we will begin, and we have no choice, the largest deportation operation in American history. We have no.
Also, Donald Trump was about 90 minutes late to his speech in Nevada. And as the audience was waiting, the propaganda network that broadcasts these things, RSBN, the announcer had to kill some time. So here's how the announcer killed the time. Play the clip.
It's like Make America Great Again. What's the crime in that, by the way? There is no crime. Make America Great Again is a beautiful slogan that is a new symbol of freedom, I believe, for the world. The MAGA hat, I believe, is a new symbol of freedom for the world. When President Trump, if he wins in 24, and then in 28, when he can't be president anymore, because that's the law of the land, right? You can only have 2 terms. That MAGA hat will always and forever be a new symbol of freedom for this country and around the world.
Really? Can you get any more pathetic than that? I mean, this would make North Korean propaganda channels blush. You have the broadcaster saying that the MAGA hat is the ultimate symbol of freedom. Are you kidding me? Can we compare that to President Biden, please, for a moment? Here was President Biden a few months back where he talked about lowering prescription drug prices to $35 a month for everyone. Play the clip.
Here's the deal. I called on the prescription drug companies to bring down the price of insulin to $35 to everyone, not just seniors. And today, Eli Lilly, the largest manufacturer of insulin in the United States of America, agreed to do just that. $35. But guess what that means? Every other company making insulin is going to have to lower their prices to $35 because they can't compete.
And by the way, President Biden doesn't talk the talk, he walks the walk. He got these things done. For example, here he is in Wisconsin back in February of 2023, talking about how there are real-world benefits to his infrastructure bill. By the way, as of right now, many months later, 40,000 infrastructure projects going up across the country. But back in February of 2023, President Biden said to all the Republicans who now want to go back to their districts and take credit for things they voted against, I'll see you at the ribbon cutting. Play the clip.
Republicans signed on to it too. Not all of them, but it was enough to get it passed. And by the way, I told them, even those that didn't vote for it, call and say, we need a project in my district. I said, okay, good, we'll do it. See you at the groundbreaking. You know, for really. I'm president for all of America. You know, at the Port of Green Bay, we're helping turn an old water plant site into a new port terminal. Going to create thousands of jobs over time. This is a big deal. You know, we're just up the road in Columbia County, just up the road. Funds from the infrastructure are going to replace the Wisconsin River Bridge. Here in Madison, the mayor can tell you we're using the funding to buy 46 electric buses, replacing dirty diesel buses that are bad health for the environment.
And as the MAGA Republicans continue to threaten to defund the government and not pass a budget, this is when President Biden gave a press conference and said, you should probably talk about passing a budget instead of, I don't know, defunding the police and abolishing the FBI. Play this clip.
Investigation. There's more in this executive order, but I'm not stopping there. Last week I laid out in my budget that we invest more in safer communities and expand access to mental health services for those affected by gun violence. Congressional Republicans should pass my budget instead of calling for cuts in these services or defunding the police or abolishing the FBI, as we hear from our MAGA Republican friends. But let's be clear, none of this absolves Congress the responsibility from the responsibility of acting to pass universal background checks, eliminate gun manufacturers' immunity from liability. And I'm determined, once again, to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
Here, President Biden talks about not letting MAGA Republicans undo the progress that has been made. Play the clip.
Seems like our Republican friends want to cede clean energy future to China, make us dependent on overseas supply chains, export jobs overseas, and weaken our energy security. The MAGA Republicans in Congress also want to cut the CHIPS and Science Act, stripping our investments for the next generation of science and technology, from biomanufacturing to quantum computing. Take away, get rid of it. That would mean ceding the future of innovation and technology to China. Well, I've got news for my MAGA Republican friends. Not on my watch. Not on my watch.
Here, President Biden is talking about how we need to come together as a nation and reach bipartisan solutions. Play the clip.
My fellow Americans, when I ran for president, I was told the days of bipartisanship were over, and that Democrats and Republicans can no longer work together. But I refuse to believe that, because America can never give in to that way of thinking. Look, the only way American democracy can function is through compromise and consensus. And that's what I work to do as your president. You know, to forge bipartisan agreement where it's possible and where it's needed. I've signed more than 350 bipartisan laws thus far in almost 2.5 years, including an historic law that rebuilding America so that we can rank #1 in the world in infrastructure instead of where we're ranked now, number 13 in the world. Another historic law, rebuilding our manufacturing base so that we'll lead the world once again in making semiconductor chips, so much more, and so many more sophisticated ones. And now, a bipartisan budget agreement. This is vital because it's essential to the progress we made over the last few years, is keeping full faith and credit of the United States of America and passing a budget that continues to grow our economy and reflects our values as a nation. That's why I'm speaking to you tonight, to report on the crisis averted and what we're doing to protect America's future.
And here, President Biden talking about Bidenomics, with the U.S. having the highest economic growth rate, leading all world economies. Play the clip.
I knew we couldn't go back to the same failed policies when I ran. So I came into office determined to change the economic direction of this country, to move from trickle-down economics to what everyone on Wall Street Journal and Financial Times began to call Bidenomics. I didn't come up with the name. I really didn't. I now claim it, but they're the ones that used it first. I got asked by a press person this morning, getting on a helicopter in Washington, why, when I asked you about Bidenomics a long time ago, you said you didn't know what it was. I said, I didn't name it Bidenomics. I didn't realize the Economist and the Wall Street Journal did. But I think it's a plan that I'm happy to call Bidenomics. And guess what? Bidenomics is working. When I took office, the pandemic was raging and our economy was reeling. Supply chains are broken, millions of people unemployed, hundreds of thousands of small businesses on the verge of closing after so many had already closed. Literally hundreds of thousands on the verge of closing. Today, the U.S. has the highest economic growth rate leading the world economies since the pandemic, the highest in the world. As Dick said, with his help, we created 13.4 million new jobs. More jobs in 2 years than any president has ever made in 4 and 2. And folks, it's no accident. That's Bidenomics in action. Bidenomics is about building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down.
Folks, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Tell me how you feel about this in the comments. It's Donald Trump's speech in Nevada. Compare that to President Biden's various speeches. I don't know about you. I prefer normalcy over chaos, democracy over dictatorship. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Network. And subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers thanks to your support. And have a great day.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.